Hivarang ayachatta santi dasata paraja kajatika dese Dhamma manukam bimam pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Well, you want to? You're okay? So the things that I was talking about today in terms of meditation practices, what I'm alluding to is Sakaya Ditti, and that is the first fetter. So we have various ways in Theravada Buddhism to describe the things that prevent peace, things that prevent liberation, and one of those lists is the 10 fetters, and the first of those is Sakaya Ditti, or personality view. And so I was, in my own kind of way, asking you to actually look at the assumption of personhood in these various ways that I said, and to not so much identify as it what to be the knowing of the very sense of a person coming and going as thought. When, for instance, I'm always looking for a for instance. What is the Latin? Exemplar docet or something? Example teaches something. So this is my 50th year as a monk. No applause. Oh, and yet, when I try to find the old monk, I can't find anything. I can notice my hips more. You get that now? Like I'm 70. I am 76. It's just that. I am 76. That's conventionally true. Definitely the body feels, it's a good 76. I'm not complaining. I got a good one this time around. And yet, when I just say I am 76, at the end of that thought, I cannot find a thing, an extra thing called me. Well, that's not saying there's nothing, because there is consciousness. And Sakaya Ditti comes also if you've read the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, this body, it's not me, not mine, not who I am. These feelings, it's not me, not mine, not who I am. Thoughts, memories, not me, not mine, not who I am. You get this kind of mantra of challenging the sense that I am this body and I am these emotions, which is pretty radical. Well, who am I then? And I think there's a Zen joke. I think Zen has good jokes. And so I am not this body. Someone comes and kicks the guy in the shin. And why'd you kick me? He said, it's not your body. So there is, and here, this is the paradox. There is conventional truth, and there is individuality. It's true. My hips feel different than your hips. There is individuality. There is conventional truth that I'm on the third floor and I just got a new passport and so on and so forth. And you have your room and you have your passport. That's true. But the Buddhist teaching is say, well, there's something more than just that. There's something more than just the conventional sense experience that we all live in. And the way that is approached is by suggesting there's kind of two ways to look at reality. One is, you could call it conventional reality, and one you might call it Dharma reality. So conventional reality is our relationships and our personal histories and our bank accounts and all the rest of it, all the rest of all conventional life. But within that, I can also be aware of conventional life in a non-personal way. So I can be aware of conventional experiences, the experiences through the senses, as stream of consciousness. I can do that too. For instance, let's say, well, I'm 76, so I'll probably get a diagnosis of something soon, right? The odds are pretty good. I hope not. And so then I get the diagnosis, whatever it is. Okay, so conventionally, right, I have to do something in this, I got to see the doctor, And then also there's my emotional reactions. Maybe I'm cool, maybe I'm not cool, maybe I'm worried. And that arises because it's natural, it's nature to respond to that in some kind of way. Now I can witness the reaction. I can witness the worry, the fear, or the blaseness, or whatever it is. I can witness that because I am not that. I'm not that. If I was that, then I couldn't witness it. It would just be that. And so this kind of witnessing awareness which we're cultivating then is the doorway to that which is beyond sense experience, to what we call the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unoriginated, the unborn. And this is what in Theravada Buddhism we see, this is why the Buddha really taught that the teaching, although it talks about rebirth and so on, in Theravada Buddhism, the kind of, like when Padipa ordains, I ordain, we ordain for the realization of the unconditioned, not to just have a jolly good time as monks, which we are having actually. And so that's a huge question. What is the unconditioned, uncreated, unborn? Peace, the harbor. And for those of you who do retreats with me, I use that language a lot. And, well, if you use via negativa, well, it can't be emotions. They're definitely unreliable. You can't talk about the body. That's not reliable. It changes. Thoughts, memories, perceptions, concepts, social structures, the whole 9 yards. So logically, if you're interested in the kind of that dimension of the Buddhist teaching, you're not just interested in the psychological dimension. That's important. So we all, in modern parlance, I suppose, we all need emotional intelligence. And most of us mature in our trials and tribulations. We become more mature emotionally, and there's that side too. There's much more than that. It's not just kind of that. It's transcendence or realization of nibbana. And so what would be the way to do that? So, well, first of all, you have to be curious about it. You have to be interested in that. And where does interest come? Well, for me it came from childhood. Some kind of intuitive experiences I had which didn't let me rest. And then subsequently, others it comes from meditation experience, other comes from reading, other comes from just intuition. But whatever it may be, when we use the Dharma perspective as opposed to the conventional reality, the Dharma perspective is now witnessing change. And then from witnessing change, you start to intuit the unchanging. Simple. Very logical. But why is it so difficult to do? Because our attention is so enmeshed in that which is changing. Our identities are so enmeshed in that. Our desires are so kind of caught up with pleasure and pain. And it's actually very hard to not be preoccupied. That's the word I like to use. Just preoccupied with sense experience. I find that, I use that a lot, don't I? Say, there's preoccupation and there's availability. So, what I'm hoping to do with this kind of meditation, when I say that thoughts and emotions arise and cease in awareness, then the mind, which is witnessing, has a chance not to be preoccupied with emotions and body and all the rest of it. And when it's not preoccupied, then it's a chance to actually contemplate, well, what is awareness? What is consciousness? And the only way you can do that is through silence. Because thought is still a condition. Thought is a condition. And that's what I've also been hopefully encouraging when I say, listen to sound and notice the silence. It's there, isn't it? Feel the body and notice the silence. So that's not it's not about the quality of your experience. Like, let's say this beautiful air conditioner, I love it. That air conditioner pipes up, doesn't it? Where is it? Where is it located? Like physically, where is it? Right there. Oh, okay, so every time it revs up, and for Colleen and Garfield, we send a metta. You're getting the blast. Okay, so it revs up, so the quality of experience becomes relatively unpleasant to the way maybe it was before, right? There's life. So obviously the quality of experience is not where you want to look if you want to find the transcendent. So if I'm looking at beautiful sounds and a kind of comfort zone of sounds, then that's intruding on my peace. But if I realize that awareness has no quality, it has no sound, and I take that as my stand, witnessing, then as it changes, I say, oh, this is unpleasant. Unpleasant feels this way. But I don't get reborn into it. I don't become preoccupied with it because, oh, why is it so unpleasant? I shouldn't have sat here. I should have sat over there. It's not really. You watch. If they move over here, they have the same suffering. I think everyone's done that one, right? I'll get to that place in the room where it's always nice. No way. So you don't move. Okay, this is unpleasant. Now, can unpleasant really last that long? Unless it's like life-threatening and biologically dangerous, but that kind of normal unpleasantness, how long can it last? It's like this, it's unpleasant. It can't, because I'm not creating anything around it. I'm staying as the witness. So sense consciousness is pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, it moves. And then the desire mind is always that which preoccupies our attention with a desire for the pleasure and getting rid of the displeasure. So now in a retreat, we're not organizing life that way, although it's very pleasant. Extremely pleasant here for me. If something's unpleasant, we witness. Unpleasant feels this way. So bodily sensations, discomfort. And as we keep doing that, then we're no longer preoccupied with the object, but we contemplate, the consciousness itself doesn't move. So I've been a monk for 50 years. I have been a monk for 50 years, right? And what's been constant? Well, it hasn't been my emotions. It hasn't been the place I lived. What's been constant? What presence? It's always been there. Even when I was absent-minded. Presence is always there. So one of the mantras I was using a few years ago is presence ever absent. Emotions come and go. Your sense of inspiration or doubt comes and goes. Your liking or disliking of something comes and goes. But what doesn't come and go? What's the constant? And I would say it's awareness, knowing, suchness, Buddha knowing Dharma, all of these different kinds of ways. And when you start to see it that way, then what we call personality view of me being one of these elements in changing stream of consciousness, that's not my real home. Not who I am. And you begin to let go of personality view. You don't take it all personally. You know that book that Ajahn Sumedho, the title, a fabulous book, Don't Take Your Life Personally. The title is enough. You can just have a blank book. Don't take, well, what does that mean? Well, on a conventional level, I have to take my life personally. If I have health concerns, I need to address them. If I have duties in the monastery, I need to take care of those and such like. So without dismissing conventional truth, there is this other kind of possibility, and that is witnessing change. So I do this all the time. I just listen to something. Okay, that's what's changing. What's unchanging? There it is. And trusting in that awareness again and again and again. So there was a question which actually was a good question because it portrayed what I didn't want to happen. You have that as a teacher sometimes. The meditation you have given us is so simple and direct. When I say it with a particular person in mind, I can say the words, I love you, I will always love you, easily and truthfully. But cringe inwardly when I say I have always loved you, because I know deep down that has not always been true what to do. But that's not what I'm asking you to do with this. It's not about a person. It's about witnessing, being the witness which accepts all things, rejects none. It's really not about personality. It's not about me and my mom or my dad. You can do that. But it's imbuing awareness with love. I'm beginning to see perhaps they're synonymous. But love not as a personal thing. So to this person I would say, if I got it right, my first suggestion was establish the awake mind, first of all. It's like this. And then begin to observe that certain types of thinking, or all types of thinking, bring up a sense of resistance or rejection or physical pain. And applying these words is a way of actually being aware of them, fully aware of them, letting them be fully in consciousness, not rejecting, not resisting them, and that opens the mind to space. Whereas this person is thinking that, this is a metta practice, and I bring up someone, may you be well, no, we'll do it a different way, I love you, I've always loved you, ooh, that time, it was horrible. And this practice is saying, cringing feels this way, I love you, I've always loved you. Self-disparagement feels this way, I've always loved you. Hatred of being hurt by someone, I've loved you, I've always loved you. It's not like you're saying you can't have hatred. It's not that. So it's the awareness which is behind and within all things and allows this whole realm of conscious experience to arise and cease. And you find this throughout the literature, like the Shin Shin Ming says, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Right? We used to read that in the 70s. Don't you remember that? That was the poem that went. But if you take conventional reality, the great way is not difficult. I have preferences in conventional reality. I like to put salt on my potatoes. So it's not about that. It's not trivial. But it's abiding as witness to the flow of consciousness and no longer going out into that to find peace or to find liberation or to find whatever you find anything, and trusting in awareness, trusting in that open awareness. And the reason I interject that mantra is because so much of, I'm just coming from my own life, is so much of my meditation and life has been critical, controlling, judging, all those kinds of things. And even though I'm aware of something, sometimes I'm not really aware. I'm just focusing on the breath in order to get rid of thought. It still doesn't have the wholesomeness of a container which takes all things, rejects none. So to this person I would say, reformulate your... Well, go back to what you assume I'm saying and realize, so It's not about a person, it's about mind states that come and go. Now when I use the word I and love, then of course it gets problematic. Sounds like me as a person, an individual. And yet I and love are very powerful words. I think that's why I came upon that formulation, because I think it's very, very powerful. Okay, I hope that covers it. So the last night maybe I formulated the Four Noble Truths according to Ajahn Dun's way, which is different than the texts. The mind going outside is the cause. The result of the mind going outside is suffering. The mind knowing the mind is the path. The result of the mind knowing the mind is the end of suffering. If this person were to then feel the feeling of cringe, and then what would be the end of suffering there? Would it not be allowing the feeling of cringe just to be there, not going out into it, not becoming the memory, not becoming the person that did that? I did that, I shouldn't have done that, it was horrible, I'm not a good Buddhist. That's going out into the object with a storyline or narrative. But actually just sitting back, this is what cringe feels like. It's like this. The mind knowing the mind. And that's what we're constantly doing. Ajahn Chah's, we find it throughout, Ajahn Chah would say, if you think that sound is bothering you, no, it's not bothering you. Stop going out there and bothering that sound. Just doing what air conditioners do. It's true. So there's kind of many ways to talk about this, but I would suggest that, like, where's your faith? What do you really trust in? Push comes to shove. Most of us trust in thought. When the chips are down, we think. We think a lot, and analyze and judge and strategize. We strategize a lot. Now, strategizing is important if you're making computer chips or you're balancing your books. But quite often we strategize to try to get control of the mind. Whereas awareness isn't like a mental strategy. You call it a strategy, but it's not a whole bunch of thinking. So it's really silence. And this, one of the questions was about space. And when you start to touch the silence of the mind, you start to also touch space. Like I'm in this room. Well, maybe I'll read the question out so it's clear. Do you think you could say something about how to practice with presence and the broad field of awareness while using the meditation object such as the breath, movement of the body as an anchor? So basically, if my mind is busy, I'll just do some deep breathing, some pranayama, something like that, and just get the mind settled by using an object in the moment. Once the mind's settled, then my consideration is no thought. Silence. Go to the end of thought, the space between thoughts, no thought. And that is where the space comes in. But many people don't have faith in that. It sounds good. It sounds like a good idea. But where does the mind go? It goes to thought, because that's what we're habituated to. That's what we trust in. Like if you have a doubt, what's he talking about anyway? What's he on about? Doubt is an object. And how can you be not preoccupied with doubt? Don't think about it. Right? But when doubt comes up, we tend to think about it. We need to, conventionally. Yeah, you need to doubt. You need to think. If Bob doesn't think about this chip he's making right now, we're going to be in trouble. So sure, doubt and thinking is important, but in this finding the discovering nibbana, discovering the peace of the mind, it's beyond thought. It's not about getting rid of thought. It's no longer trusting in thought. So it's very important to start to see thought as an object. So if a doubt comes up, am I practicing correctly? Just say it twice, and then forget about it. Am I practicing correctly? Am I practicing correctly? And there's the silence. Just go for that. Go for the silence. Okay, then say, I'm not practicing correctly. It's the same silence. So start to like begin. If you can begin to see thought as an object, then use one thought, and notice the end of a thought. Say. So what I do with that mantra, I'll say it. I'll say, I love you. I've always loved you. I have always loved you. I will always love you. And then I stop. I notice the silence. I use mantras a lot that way. Like the first few years I used infinite patience, boundless compassion. Stop. And notice so I can introduce attitudes and ideas into consciousness which are very skillful, but then also I can use thought and then notice the end of thought deliberately. I'm not getting rid of thought, but I know thought's not permanent. It's structured, it comes and goes. But we are so conditioned to analyzing and thinking and problem solving that seems to be difficult to do. I don't know. So may I suggest on this retreat, can you begin to taste the flavor between thoughts? Taste the flavor of silence. By listening. Listening's very good. Receptive listening. Notice the silence. So when you're meditating and your mind just explodes with some problem thinking, problem solving, then just say the problem out. I need to do this, and stop. Notice the silence. And then if you find that you're resisting thought, you're trying to get rid of thought, you're trying to get to know thought as an experience, then use that mantra. As soon as you notice thought, just say to the thought now listen, thought. and say it to the thought, like it's a being. And then rest in silence. So maybe you have the mind, it produces some memory, like this person, which is very unpleasant. Memories are that way, they're good and they're bad. So the memory's unpleasant. Like I still have memories of my mom, things that when I nursed her I made errors, and yet I was 99% pretty good, but not perfect. Yet in memory memory traces. My mom died in 2011. I was with her for a while, and still this kind of and then I say, sorry, Mom, you had an amateur, and I just kind of let go. But memory is that way. It doesn't necessarily just go away. But the awareness, when it knows memory, as memory, that's not a problem. It comes with good memories, bad memories. So try to use thinking to see the end of thinking. End of thought. When you wake up in the morning, what's the thinking process that's revving through the mind? First thing, when you have to go to the washroom or the bell rings or whatever, first thing, what's going on? Awaken, really awaken, not just kind of go brush your teeth, really awaken. And then see if you can like right then bring your mind to silence. I mean, it's a good challenge, because quite often we wake up and then we're there about half an hour later. Because we're on automatic pilot. An automatic pilot can drive you into a mountain. So actually, right from the moment, what's going on? What's the mood of the mind? And where's the silence of the mind? Because when you come from deep sleep, my experience is when you come from deep sleep, the mind can also often be in a very deeply tranquil and loving state. And that's not uncommon, I think. And then the whole ego consciousness sort of gets born into life, and then all the problems of the day or all the habits of the mind start to just take over, and our attention, it's preoccupied with a sense of self. So in the morning, when you wake up, right away, see the sense of self arising and beginning and starting to create time and self and future and past. And see, that's an object. When you fall asleep, and when you wake up, was presence ever absent? Investigate just the very nature of falling asleep, that kind of thing. If you can't fall asleep, use Yoga Nidra. That's very, very useful. Lay down, get a pillow under your knees, go into corpse posture, do whole body awareness. Just feel the body in awareness. Body's here, it feels this way. Come to awareness. See if you can keep that posture for a period of time. There was another question. So, in this question, I would say silence. Get the mind to silence. This is an experienced meditator. And just trust in silence, and that'll give you space. I notice that in meditation that when the mind settles down, there is a natural peace, but also a certain non-discernment when the senses are withdrawn. This is not the dullness of sleep, but rather the lack of vivid awakeness in comparison to when I sustain the awakened mind when senses are in operation. Should the two states be equally vivid? If so, how do I cultivate this? Well, vividness and non-vividness are qualities. What is it that can know two qualities? It has to be something which is neither vivid nor non-vivid. Otherwise you couldn't know vivid and non-vivid. You couldn't have that duality without. So I would say to this person, well, trust and awareness. So the question comes, oh, that was vivid. This is not vivid. And the problem is doubt. It's not vivid or non-vivid. The problem is doubt. So the doubt comes up. Which one? Which one should I do? Huh? And they don't see that the mood of the mind is doubt. And so they want an answer. And the answer is, well, trust and awareness. That vivid feels this way. And non-vivid feels that way. And then you find that which has no quality, because awareness does have no kind of dimensions. Does it have a center? No, it doesn't. It's very, very simple, actually. I hope I'm not making it too complicated. So awakening to the way things are, constantly, right from the get-go, right from when you wake up. All right? I'll leave that for your reflection.
Annamayang Dhamma Kataya Sadhu Karam Dhamma Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
I forgot to say hello to our friends at Zoom. Hello, friends at Zoom. How are you doing? See you tomorrow.